we move on then to Xavisimons, because in the transfer flow Slack, it feels to me like you've wanted to talk about him for a while, and I do think he's one of the most exciting players on the market this summer.
Oh yeah, well, he's excellent attacking player. Like you watch him, even like not just clips. You watch a match here and there, like with the Netherlands as well as with Red Bull. He's so good, and lot of good qualities in terms of. I mean, he's a very well-rounded player for a 21-year-old in terms of attacker coming from the left side, or you can play centrally. Really good long distance or middle distance shot, and just a good player. And he's also very good at dropping back and defend, or like help defend or win the ball back. Not just counter pressing high up the field, but also somebody that will track back. Now, you could say he's 21, maybe he's doing it now. When he's 24, maybe he won't. But that's when he's more established. But I think that those are really, like, I think there's a lot to like about him to build someone that you can build a team around, or make him one of the pillars of your attack. If you are like a Champions League team, that pair him with a couple of other really good talented players, and you have an attacking front line for years to come.
Do you have a bead on where you would want to play him though if you sign it? Because it's one of those things where these players who can play left, can play right, can play a little bit deeper, that's baked into their value, right? We kind of say, oh, okay, well, he'd have multiple uses for your team. But on the other hand, he's 20. You want him to develop to, the fullest extent of his ability. And it does feel like some kind of consistency, at least in partnerships. I know that the right back does this when I'm playing on the right. I know that this right-sided central midfielder moves in that way. Do you get a sense of where you think he would be best off kind of committing his game to in the long term?
I think he is. So if you look at how this works, is like how I look at it is that is he technically good enough and creative enough that I would want my best players to play as centrally as possible. Like the most talented players, I want him, because the more central player he has more opportunities to be on the ball. So there's more opportunity for good things to happen. That's how I look at it. So I think he's definitely very, very good technically to play centrally. But I think he's shown that he likes to come inside from the left. But basically, it's classic right-footed player playing on the left side, very technical, very good. So I think that, I think he's rumored, but I think it's with Bayern is the team that's being linked to him more strongly, right? So one of the things with Bayern is they have Jamal Musiala also, who, when I look at them both, they right now for their respective teams, they tend to occupy the same spaces, or they tend to operate in similar zones. But I do think both of them are good enough to play either centrally or left side. Yeah. So I think that I would want him to spend as much time centrally as possible, assuming that he is the number one best player in the team. Now, if he moves to a Bayern where there is Jamal Musiala, who's, similar age, but probably better because he's done it at a higher level team, or, probably same level, you could say that you could compare them. You could put him in the same kind of group. I think that you could probably figure out a way for them to operate where they can interchange. One of them plays left, another plays centrally, vice versa. So like I think I would like him to, if I play him as my left winger or as a starting left winger, I want to then build a team in such a way that when he comes inside, which is where I think he creates most value, I want that space to be available for him, and whoever is playing centrally be able to kind of adapt to that.
Okay, so if there's, say, a left-sided central midfielder, you would want it to be somebody who was comfortable pulling out to the wing.
Yeah.
Okay, that's quite interesting, because it feels like breadth of talent, like the breadth of output from this guy is amazing, really. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously
yeah.
huge end product, both in the Eredivisie and the Bundesliga,
Mhm.
but also a high volume ball carrier, lots of
Yeah.
dribbles. As you said, great defensive intensity. He's been linked with Man United as well. He's been linked with Arsenal as well. And all of these, and all those feel like different sort of versions of his future. For United,
Hmm.
we talk about him as a right winger. Arsenal, maybe as a Martinelli gut replacement or moving into that left eight role or something. So it's just intriguing to imagine
So
what he'd be.
yeah, so I think that I think for players like this, it's hard to if when you ask if you ask a question, what is his best position? It's
Mm.
not very straightforward to answer it. A lot of
Yeah.
it depends on who is around him, what type of a team he's playing with. Like, if you are like a team that I think these days a lot of teams, whether they write it out that way in the paper or not, they tend to play like when they are in possession, there's like a line of three in the back, and then you have these fullbacks or the wingbacks, or one of them providing the width on one side, and then the other one pinching inside. So you can say if it's a 3-4-2-1, he could play as one
Mm.
of the two underneath. That would
Yeah.
be his best role, where he has
Mm.
the freedom to go left and start in the left and then come inside 3-4-3, 3-4-2-1. That type of setup. But if you
Yeah.
look, lot of teams in possession, like a lot of the high end teams in possession, do look that way these days.
Mm.
Like where everybody kind of stations themselves into those half spaces. So I feel like
Mm.
that's the area that the left-sided half space is where I think he creates most of his value. But
Yeah.
then it's one thing we know the area, but then the other thing is like how does he get there, and what are the situations you want him to be in. That I think that will be slightly different for as you said, United versus
Mm.
versus Arsenal versus Bayern.
Mm. The one thing with him that I want to see is generally speaking, we're talking about kind of 80 mil has been the rumor. PSG and Bayern seem like they're negotiating through the press. I'm surprisingly comfortable with that price. Obviously you want to get in for less, but I don't think it's crazy given the output. I suppose one thing you could say though is he's playing in the Eredivisie, which is not the most defensively sound league. And then he's playing in the Bundesliga, and he was playing for quite a high transition side. RB Leipzig considerably more direct than the other good teams in that division.
Mm-hmm.
And generally speaking, the division, lots of transition football, lots of defensive breakdowns. Is there any question about him in facing a low block defense, or do you think his technical ability just kind of gets rid of those concerns for you?
I think for the most part, I think his technical ability would allay those concerns for me. I think he's not afraid of taking guys on and
Sure.
dribble past someone. So I think that part I'm not too worried about it.
Okay.